I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey Patriot Warrior fam, I'm Face, and these are the histories that America forgot. According to Wikipedia, quote, "The Battle of Hampden was an action in the British campaign to conquer present-day Maine and remake it into the colony of New Ireland during the War of 1812. Sir John Sherbrooke led a British force from Halifax, Nova Scotia, to establish New Ireland, which lasted until the end of the war, 8 months later. The brief life of the colony yielded customs revenues, which were subsequently used to finance a military library in Halifax and found Dalhousie College. The subsequent retirement of the British Expeditionary Force from its base in Castine to Nova Scotia ensured that eastern Maine would remain a part of the United States. Lingering local feelings of vulnerability, however, would help fuel the post-war movement for statehood for what was then a part of Massachusetts, formerly the District of Maine. The withdrawal of the British after the ratification of the Treaty of Ghent represented the end of 2 centuries of violent contest over Maine by rival nations, initially the French and British, and then the British and the Americans. On August 26, 1814, a British squadron from the Royal Navy base at Halifax moved to capture the down east coastal town of Machias. The force consisted of 5 warships: HMS Dragon, HMS Endymion, HMS Bacchante, and HMS Sylph, a large tender, and 10 transports carrying some 3,000 British regulars, elements of the 29th, 60th, 62nd, and 98th Regiments, and a company of Royal Artillery. The expedition was under the overall command of Sir John Sherbrooke, who was then the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. Major General Gerard Gosselin commanded the army, and Rear Admiral Edward Griffith Colpoys controlled the naval elements. The intention of the expedition was clearly to re-establish British title to Maine east of the Penobscot River, an area the British had renamed New Ireland, and open the line of communications between Halifax and Quebec. Carving off New Ireland from New England had been a goal of the British government and the colonies of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia since British Brigadier General Francis McLean conquered Maine during the American Revolution. En route, the squadron fell in with HMS Rifleman and learned that the USS Adams, commanded by Captain Charles Morris, was undergoing repairs at Hampden on the Penobscot River. Sherbrooke changed his plan and headed for Castine at the mouth of the Penobscot. He rendezvoused off Matinicus Island and added HMS Bulwark, HMS Tenedos, HMS Peruvian, and the schooner HMS Pictou to his force. The complete force entered the cove at Castine on September 1st. The local militia melted away at the site, and a 28-man contingent from the U.S. Army under Lieutenant Andrew Lewis of the 40th U.S. Infantry spiked their 4 24-pounders, blew up their magazine, and withdrew to the north, trailing a pair of field pieces. As the first order of business, Sherbrooke and Griffith issued a proclamation assuring the populace, if they remained quiet, pursued their usual affairs, and surrendered all weaponry, they would be protected as British subjects. Moreover, the British would pay fair prices for all goods and services provided. Next, Gosselin crossed the bay with most of the 29th to occupy Belfast and protect the left flank of the major operation to follow. Locals didn't challenge the occupation, although some 1,200 militiamen gathered 3 miles outside of Belfast to await developments. Griffith assigned RN Captain Robert Barry the task of going after the Adams. Barry proceeded up the Penobscot with the Dragon, Sylph Peruvian, and the transport Harmony and a prize tender. The ships carried an armed contingent of some 750 men, drawn from the 4 participating regiments, the Artillery Company, and some Royal Marines. During the war, Barry was one of the few British officers in America to acquire a loathsome reputation, which he was about to reinforce. When Morris entered the river late in August, he moved past Buckstown, now Bucksport, Maine, and anchored at the mouth of the Sudabscook Stream in Hampden on the west bank of the Penobscot, some 30 miles inland. Anticipating an attack, he placed 9 of the ship's guns in battery on a nearby hill and 14 on the wharf next to his crippled ship. Morris, commanding a crew of 150, called for help from Brigadier General John Blake, commander of the Eastern Militia at Brewer. Blake responded with some 550 militiamen and formed the center of a defensive line, running along a ridge facing south or towards Castine. Lieutenant Lewis showed up with 24 or so regulars and 2 field pieces. Adding a carronade, he went in line to the right or west and commanded the north-south road, the expected route of British attackers. Late on September 2nd, Barry landed his force at Bald Hill Cove, 3 miles below Hampden, and waited for morning. Early on September 3rd, in rain and fog, the British moved on Hampden, led by Lieutenant Colonel Henry John. Skirmishers met with resistance at Pitcher's Brook, now Reed's Brook, primarily from the guns directed by Lewis, but John sent reinforcements and the British stormed across the bridge. In short order, the full force was in position to continue against the American defensive line on the hill. The sight of oncoming disciplined redcoats, bayonets glistening, rattled the untrained militia. The center broke and fled the woods toward Bangor. Morris on the left and Lewis on the right found themselves in untenable positions. About to overrun, Morris spiked his guns and ignited a train leading to the Adams. With colors flying, the ship blew up before the British could intervene. Lewis likewise spiked his guns and withdrew to the north. Morris and his Navy band made it to Bangor, crossed west through the rugged country of the Kennebec River, and around September 9th arrived at their base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. After 2 weeks, every sailor reported, not a man missing, a source of great satisfaction for Morris. At this point, Barry detailed 200 men to take control of Hampden, while he and the balance of his force pursued the Americans in the direction of Bangor. 80 prominent men of the Hampden area spent a night as prisoners. Most were paroled the next day. Supported by 3 of his ships, Barry entered and intimidated Bangor at midday and called for unconditional submission. Provisions and quarters were demanded and readily turned over, quote, since the Commodore, who was a churlish, brutish monster, end quote. according to a correspondent, quote, threatened to let loose his men and burn the town if the inhabitants did not use greater exertion to feed his men, end quote. Although Berry ordered a ban on liquor for his troops, some men managed to acquire brandy by the bucket. Accordingly, Berry ordered an officer to destroy all liquor in the town. This set off a wave of plundering. 6 stores fell to the mob, and $6,000 worth of property was damaged. Many citizens fled the woods. Quote, "We are alive this morning," end quote, wrote a newspaper correspondent. Quote, "But such scenes I hope not to witness again. The enemy's soldiery, having emptied all the stores and many dwelling houses, they break windows and crockery and destroy everything they cannot move," end quote. During the night, the British burned 14 vessels across the river in Brewer. Before the raiders could ignite Bangor's vessels, the town's selectmen made a deal. Fearful that the burning would lead to a conflagration, the selectmen offered Berry a $30,000 bond and agreed to complete 4 ships on the stocks and deliver them to him in Castine. Berry accepted the arrangement and carried away a packet, 4 schooners, and a boat. Before moving back down to the river on the 4th, Berry and John paroled 191 locals considered prisoners, including General Blake. Bangor selectmen estimated that the losses and damages totaled $45,000. The Bangor diversion did not end the difficulties for Hampden. Berry decided to spend more time in the town. Redcoats terrorized the village, killing livestock for sport and destroying whatever met their fancy, including gardens, furniture, books, and papers. 2 vessels moored off the town were burned. The rampage prompted a town committee to appeal to Berry to treat the place with a little humanity. His shocking reply summarized his approach. Quote, "Humanity, I have none for you. My business is to burn, sink, and destroy. Your town is taken by storm. By the rules of war, we ought to lay your village in ashes and put its inhabitants to the sword. But I will spare your lives, though I mean to burn your houses," end quote. Berry did not follow through on his threat to burn houses, but he did secure a $14,000 bond on several incomplete vessels on the stocks in town. The terms required the completed vessels be delivered by the Royal Navy in Castine by November 1st. In the end, the town estimated the value of its losses to total $44,000. The British then skipped down to Frankfurt and demanded considerable livestock and surrender of all arms and ammunition at that place. The locals were slow to comply, and before he moved along on the 7th, Berry promised to return and make the town pay for its delays. The captain did not make good on his threat, and except for some nuisance sniping at the British as they passed, prospect, the Battle of Hampden was at an end. The British Army loss at the battle was 1 enlisted man killed, 1 officer and 7 enlisted men wounded, and 1 enlisted man missing. 4 of the casualties were from the 29th Regiment, 2 were from the 62nd Regiment, and 4 from the 98th Regiment. The Royal Navy reported 1 sailor from the HMS Dragon was killed. 2 British graves in Hampden remain there today, but no details are carved on the stones. These could be the soldier and sailor killed that day. American casualties were low, but sources are conflicting. Williamson gives 1 militiaman killed and 11 wounded, with at least 2 civilians killed by accident. Including the wounded, 84 Americans were taken prisoner. Williamson's data may reflect on the losses to the Hampden militia companies. Captain Berry could form no estimate, but noted upwards of 30 laying wounded in the woods. Lieutenant Colonel John states he had no correct number but reported 30 to 40 killed, wounded, or missing. Militia leaders could not confirm how many men actually reported for duty. A list for pay purposes was finally produced, but is missing entire companies and states no casualties except for 1 Tobias Oakman killed, the basis for the 1 killed that Williamson repeated. Claims by citizens for various compensations were filed for numerous years after the battle, without a final tally or surviving documentation. Sherbrooke declared New Ireland a province of British North America and left General Gosselin in Castine to govern it. For the next 8 months, from the fall of 1814 to the spring of 1815, the Penobscot River was essentially an international boundary. That Hampden and Bangor were on the wrong American side might have contributed to their rough treatment. With the signing of the Treaty of Ghent in December 1814, however, the British claim to Maine was effectively surrendered. The British evacuated Castine on April 25, 1815, and the pre-war boundary was restored. The final boundary between the inland, wooded portion of Maine and Canada would remain open to dispute until the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842.
Yeah, let's go! I'm unstoppable, do the impossible. I'm irresponsible, yet I'm phenomenal. I got an arsenal, I'm dropping bombs, you know. No, I'm not stopping, no. Conquer the obstacle. To the top, here I go, think I'm chosen to be the king of rock, think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion.
Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable. Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I could drop you, bro. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. Yeah, let's go. I don't care what they all say. That's right, I'ma do this thing my way. Let's go. Been grinding hard on it all day. Okay, we work hard, then we all play. Yeah, I'm addicted to the grind, man. That's right. So I refuse to waste time, man. Yeah, one day it all will be fine, man. Let's go. Gotta commit to the climb. You know we're back with the Guinness, setting records every minute, every track. An addiction to the fact that we're winning. Still we lack, something's missing. Need a track that is hitting, making racks, making millions. If you ask, that's the mission. I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating. Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable. Yeah.
Yeah.